Hello there, happy innovators. My critical thinking brothers and sisters out there. How are you guys doing, huh? Have you missed me? I'm sorry about the delay. I apologize. I really do think I owe you an apology for making you wait so long. Because, like you, I tune into other people's content, videos and podcasts and things like that. And I understand the idea of kind of like, looking forward to something new and having something new to work to and things like that. So, having said that, I apologize sincerely for making you wait as long as I have. Okay, I'm going to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. I'm not promising it won't, but I'm going to try, really try to be a little more regular with my Singularity podcasts. Okay. Now, I did record 2 different episodes last week. Okay. For the record, I did do that, but they just weren't quite there. They weren't good enough. And, I kind of liken it to maybe doing like a painting or doing like a guitar line or something like that. You kind of know, you just know instinctively when it's good and when it's not. And with these 2 episodes, it just wasn't there, it just wasn't there. So I didn't delete them or anything. I still have them. Okay. But I've decided to put them away and start anew. And that's what you're getting right here, right now. So, let's see here. What has transpired in the time since I released my last Singularity podcast? Right offhand, okay, I can say that the New England Patriots won the Super Bowl again. 6 Super Bowl titles. And that may not seem like a big deal to you, but in my household, that's a really big deal. Because where I grew up, where I come from, the Cleveland Browns never even made it to a Super Bowl. And it's kind of nice, I will admit, to live in a place where the team, the home team, is like the winningest team in history. It's like from one extreme to the other. A city where the Cleveland Browns never won a Super Bowl or never even went to the Super Bowl, to moving to a city where, or a region where, the team has won a record-breaking 6 world championships. Okay, pretty cool. Moving on. I am writing new material. It's going really well, and I'm having a lot of fun with the process. So hopefully that will reflect in the finished product when all this new music is done. Okay, so I got my good old cup of coffee here. I'm going to take a sip. Oh man, that is the best cup of coffee I have ever had. A while back, I was in this conversation with a woman who was a fan of the Singularity Podcast. And we were having a nice dialogue about different issues and things like that. And she made a comment to me that kind of stuck with me. She said that, like me, okay, she was an empath. And I didn't know what that meant. Okay, I wasn't sure what she meant. So I asked her to clarify that to me. Like, what does that mean that you're an empath or I'm an empath? What does that mean? It's EMPATH, like empathetic, right? I guess, or something. And, she kind of explained to me, well, an empath is, someone who's in tune, like instinctively more in tune with how other people feel. And, like it's some kind of magical thing, or some kind of special quality that I have. And I gotta be honest with you, I was like, What do you mean? Like, you think because, I have an opinion or feel strongly about something that happens to someone else, like I'm an empath? Like, you have to give it a title, Like, I think she had been listening to either the Singularity Podcast where I talked about divorce or abortion, or maybe the one about suicide. I forget. Maybe all three. But, the point being that she felt that, being able to have genuine sympathy for strangers and, empathy for someone who's going through something that's difficult is some kind of special quality. And let me tell you, it's not. It's common sense, man. It's common feeling and human emotion. Like, how could you see someone suffering or something and not be able to at least kind of, relate to them somehow and have sympathy for them or something, It's kind of just like one of those things like, really? You really think I'm something special just because I'm able to relate to other people's suffering and to empathize with them? Like, get out of here. And she was being nice to me, she was being kind, but it's like, we live in such a lame time, like having strong feeling and emotion for strangers and their difficult situations and their suffering, whatever. It's not special. It's normal. We're supposed to be like that. I'm a human being, not an empath. I'm a human being with a brain, and I think. I'm a critical thinker, and I have a heart, for God's sakes, Anyway, I'll calm down, and I'll get on with this podcast, but I just wanted to mention that because it just cheesed me a little bit, Like, we just live in the dumbest time, where you have an act of generosity or kindness towards someone, and it's like you're a special person. Like, no way. It's supposed to be like that every day, man. Every day, with everyone. That's the point. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about this idea that I have. I was thinking about that whole curses episode that I did last. And, I talked about like the supernatural element of curses and things like that. And, it's a serious topic, but I got to admit, I do love talking about that kind of stuff. I find it fascinating, but it is not a laughing matter, and it is serious, and it's not just entertainment. I mean, it really, I was living this stuff out in my life. I mean, it was happening, and it scared me. I am not ashamed to admit that it frightened me, those dreams that I was having and stuff. But it reminded me of this other story that I had almost completely forgotten about. And it's kind of cool. I think it is anyway. Okay, so a few years ago, maybe about 5 years ago or something, I had been watching a couple of movies that had made my radar. And in case you haven't noticed, I watch a lot of films, I watch a lot of videos, I watch a lot of things, and I learn from what I watch. I learn faster from what I watch than from what I hear. So I'm a visual learner. And so it makes sense to me that I watch a lot of film. I watch a lot of documentary films. I watch a lot of, YouTube amateur videos, and I learn things, and I come to conclusions about things from what I see. Okay? So it's not just simply a matter of being lazy. It's just, yes, I read books and I learn from books and things like that, but I'm just more of a visual learner. Okay? So I had these two movies that made my radar. One was called The Price of Pleasure, and the other was this video of the serial killer Ted Bundy, minutes before he was executed, giving his final, statement. And so this movie, The Price of Pleasure, okay, was a documentary film done about pornography and the impact that pornography has on society and on people. Okay? Now, it wasn't like one-sided. It was kind of like an objective look at this idea of pornography and how it has progressed, like how it started and what it has become, the industry end of it, how much money it makes, how much of a demand there is, and subsequently with the advent of YouTube and the internet and those things, how pornography has become readily available at any time. Okay? And it was just kind of like a 1-2 punch. Like I don't think about that stuff too much. I usually try to avoid it, I guess you could say. Although that's sometimes impossible, and it's a struggle sometimes, to not look. It's hard to not look because I'm a man, and it's like it's hard to not look when there's a naked woman or something, right? It's difficult. Sometimes it's easier than others, but I think you know what I'm getting at. But the point that I'm trying to make is that watching this documentary film and then watching this explanation from, this guy who's about to die, on camera explaining to people that, pornography had contributed to what he had become. Okay? Now, he got a lot of criticism for that. Like, oh, he's blaming pornography for him being a killer, for being a madman. He's blaming pornography. Okay? And in fact, there was even like this body language expert on YouTube who was talking about him and, oh, look at this guy. He's so full of crap, talking about this pornography, just playing the camera, And I'll tell you what, I didn't take it that way. If you ever watch that video clip of Ted Bundy talking about pornography moments before he's executed, he starts to cry. When he's kind of like admitting or at least expressing how he felt about what he had become and why it had gotten that bad. The origins of it were, in his opinion, and his self-analysis or whatever, that pornography had played a big role in what he had become. Now, I get the idea that, millions of people watching pornography, most people don't become Ted Bundy. They don't go down that road. It doesn't affect them that much. But the point is that sometimes it does. Okay? Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is because when Ted Bundy was talking about it, he was kind of saying, okay, I'm paraphrasing now, but he was kind of saying like, the pornography that was available when he was younger is nothing compared to what was available the day he was being executed, and that was many years ago. So, you fast forward to now, and you can kind of see my point. Like, it's really kind of amped up a lot. And you know what? Some people like pornography. Okay, I understand that. We live in a free country. It's your choice. It's your soul. It's your belief system, whatever. Okay? But it's my contention that pornography really, come on. It's really not a great thing. You got the women that are involved, right? And more often than not, they're probably like, human trafficked prostitutes or something. It's against their will. It's like, probably not the happiest existence for a woman. It probably goes against many of the things that live in the hearts of humans. The limits. It goes beyond those limits. I can't imagine what it would be like. And I guess maybe there are some people who are involved in pornography or something that enjoy it. Okay, so what do I know, right? How would I know? How could I know? But I would wager to bet that more often than not, it's more of a negative thing. I mean, come on, Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, these people are being exploited, sexually on film. That's what it is. Let's call it what it is. Whether you like it or not, or whether you agree with it or not. I mean, it is that, right? I don't know. I would guess that maybe, there aren't too many women who, in their younger years just can't wait to get older so they can be a porn star. I guess at this point in time, I don't know. With this younger generation, they're exposed to so much more. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm way off. But I don't know. I don't think so. I think the reality of pornography and participating in pornography and those things is a negative thing for any person that's involved. Maybe except for the people who are making the money off of it, and buying the mansions and the cars and stuff. They are loving every minute of it, but I'm not so sure all the time. I don't know. I'm not here to judge, I'm really not, because I don't know. But anyway, the point is that after watching this documentary and kind of seeing the ins and outs of, the industry and all those things, and the impact, the social impact, all that, and then, watching this thing with Ted Bundy talking about this warning for the future generations, like look out, because this stuff is really bad. This stuff can really produce some really horrible results in people, right? It can happen. You can get carried away, and just literally carried away on that wave. And, that can happen. So watch out, And of course it was taken, by his detractors or whatever, it was taken like, oh, he's blaming pornography, but I don't think he was blaming pornography. He was just expressing that he felt that it had contributed greatly to his appetite and how twisted it got. Okay, now, like I said, it's not like that for everybody, but it can happen. So we have to be careful, right? We have to watch, right? Well, can you imagine? Can you even begin to imagine, like, if what he was warning us about is true? What kind of monsters are being bred? Young people, like right now, in this age of like literally anything goes. I mean, like in the time that, Ted Bundy was a kid, the only thing that was really available was like burlesque, like think about it now. I mean, what can't you find on the internet? What can you not find? I can't think of anything. You can probably find anything. Type in anything and you can find it, right? So I got to thinking, I had this like box that I had been lugging around for years of all these pornographic videos that I had just accumulated over the years, like whether they were, given to me by friends or left at my house by somebody, or, from a bachelor party or something, or, actually I can remember one time specifically I went with some of my buddies that were in a band I was in. We went to a strip club. It was the first time I ever went to a strip club, and part of the price of admission into the strip club was you got a free porno when you put down the money. So of course it's like you can take a free video. It's free, I'll take it, sure. And while we were there, I remember at this strip club, these three friends of mine, they were having like the time of their lives, but I realized pretty early on, like right when we got there, that I wasn't really comfortable with the situation, okay? And not that I'm some do-gooder, goody-goody or something. It was just like I'm not attracted to that kind of thing. And it was clear to me while I was having my first strip club experience, okay, watching strippers, okay, that I got the impression that a lot of the women didn't really want to be there, which makes sense. And I got the feeling that they were kind of being forced into it. That's what it seemed like. It seemed forced, and everything was fake and phony, and, to make money, and they were selling themselves, but they didn't really want to be. It was an act, it was theater, and I could sense that, and I didn't like it. And I also don't like, those kind of women. I'm not attracted to that. A lot of guys are. I'm not. I'm not attracted to, I'm not attracted to the kind of girls who are strippers. I'm just not attracted to that kind of thing. I'm not affected by fake breasts, okay? Like, that actually is a little bit repulsive to me. Like, this idea of these chemical balls that are sewn into women's skin, it's absolutely horrifying to me. Like, not interested, okay? And, that experience, I remember it like it happened yesterday. And it was kind of funny because when it came time to leave, like, I was so kind of like anxious to just get out of there and like not waste my time anymore, that like I made a high speed walk to the door. Like, let's just get out of here. And I was moving a little too fast. I wasn't paying attention. It was kind of dark in there anyway. One of the bouncers had a telephone cord, stretched across the walkway. He was talking on the phone. And, as I was speed walking out of this place with this porno under my arm, I hit this telephone line like a finish line, and the phone just came like flying out of the guy's hand and like smacked against the wall. It was like a catastrophe, I might have even broke the phone. And I was like, just made a beeline for the door. Like, I did not want to get killed by this bouncer, So I remember that experience distinctly, and I remember it being, very unpleasant for me. Okay? Okay. So I did have a friend. He was kind of like my best friend, and he started to date a stripper. And I hung out with him all the time, so there were a lot of times where I would hang out with him and his girlfriend, or, we would go pick her up from work and that kind of thing. And, she was making a buck. She's doing whatever she has to do or whatever, okay? But through that process, I kind of got to see behind the curtain a little bit. And I was right. It's not pleasant. It's not fun. It's just a way for some women to make money. It's a last resort, And in that case, I guess in that situation, I would say I kind of feel bad for them, I suppose it's one thing if you enjoy that kind of thing and, you're doing exactly what you want to be doing, but I don't know. It's hard to tell, right? Anyway, so around this time that I was watching this movie, The Price of Pleasure, I realized, I got this box of pornography that I've been dragging around with me, from state to state, moving around. I don't watch it, I kind of forgot I even had it, but it just kind of occurred to me, like, why am I dragging this crap around, And it was a pretty good sized box of tapes and books and, magazines and, just all that stuff that I had accumulated over the years, like my little porno box, And I decided that what I was going to do was fire up my good old handy dandy fire barrel in the backyard, and I was going to burn every single bit of that stuff, like burn it into oblivion, like just not carry it around anymore, not have it in my house anymore, just get rid of it. And so I did. I rounded up all that stuff and maybe a few other select books that were not pornographic, but were probably kind of like, on the edge, spiritually and things like that. And, I'm just going to get this stuff out of my life and get it out of my house. Okay? And so I did. I fired up the barrel. I started throwing all that stuff in, woohoo, doing a little dance around the fire like an Indian chief, you know? Like, this stuff's gone, man. It goes right into the abyss, you know? You light that fire and it disappears, man. You just throw that stuff in there, you know? Get rid of it. And I felt great, you know? I felt empowered, and I felt, you know, I just did kind of like a pretty good thing for myself. Like, just get rid of this crap, you know? But what was strange was, like, as soon as I finished that process of burning, when I went back into my house, I realized that down the length of my arm, from my wrist, kind of like almost to my elbow, all right, on the underside of my arm, was this really long scratch that went from the bottom of my palm almost all the way down to my elbow. It was this really long cut, and it was bleeding pretty good, but it looked like a scratch, like it was like a long, you know, cut on my arm. It was actually pretty deep, and it was bleeding pretty bad, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit, like, oh my gosh, like, what is that? You know, and it freaked me out so much that I photographed it. Maybe a couple days later, it occurred to me, like, that was weird. I'm doing this big, huge bonfire of porn in my backyard, and then without having any sensation of pain or anything like that, there's this huge cut down my arm. And like I said, it freaked me out so much that I actually photographed it. So if you go to my YouTube channel and you watch the video for this podcast that I made, the one with the Singularity Podcast logo on it, you'll be able to see the picture. Okay, I'll put that in the video in this section here. And it just really kind of freaked me out, you know? Like, I don't know. It just made me kind of wonder, you know, if there was some kind of connection, you know? Like had this cut appeared on my arm by something invisible, because I promise you, I had no, you know, recollection of pain or, you know, any sensation of anything touching my wrist or anything. Nothing. Okay? But bam, there it was, and it manifested as this cut right on my arm. And it was kind of weird too, because right after I did this, okay, and I was like feeling all good about myself and everything, I started to have these dreams, and I think I only had two of them. One of them was like there was this gigantic creature. It was kind of like in a huge dark like cave, like a massive, like this creature was the size of like King Kong, okay, but it had the head and the eyes of that demon from Fantasia. Like, it looked just like that. It had the glowing eyes, and it had me in its grip, okay, and I was trying to get out of this thing's grip, and it was really, really angry that I was getting out of its grip. Like, it was really angry. It didn't say anything, it didn't do anything, but the sense was, man, this thing hated me, okay? Whatever it was. And I had like one night, like I had that dream, and then like the next night I had another, and it was similar, okay, but it wasn't the same. And I bring it up because I really do kind of wonder if there was some kind of connection there, you know? Like, burning all that stuff, the cut on my arm, these weird dreams, like maybe what I had done was actually kind of a big deal in my life. You know, I didn't realize what I was dragging around with me, you know, with this box of all this smut, you know, all this stuff. Now, you know, I have to kind of clarify something here. I'm not a saint, you know, I'm not a do-gooder. I'm not like that, okay? I'm not special or anything like that, you know? I just made a decision, you know, about what I want and what I don't want, but it doesn't mean that, you know, it doesn't mean that I'm righteous. You know what I'm saying? It just means like I made a decision, but I'm flawed, you know, and like I said, you know, when there's a naked woman on television or something, it's hard to not look, you know, it's hard to not look. I'm a man. I'm attracted to women's bodies. So, it's difficult, but it's not impossible, And of course, just like with anything else, the older you get, the easier things get in some ways. Things like that, matters of self-control or custody of the eyes, custody of the senses, which I've talked about before, I can say, now that I'm thinking about it, there have been a couple of times when I accidentally stumbled across something that I was watching, and it scarred me. Like, some of the stuff I've stumbled across on the internet is so disturbing to look at that it stays with me in my memory, and I have to really kind of try to forget it. And it is possible, really, to do that, but it's not easy. And it takes a long time. But, I guess I'm bringing it up because I remembered that whole idea of the scratch on my arm and the burning all that stuff. And, it was kind of such a bizarre story. I figured it was worth sharing, not because I'm special, not because I'm fantastic or anything. I'm a jackass, I'm flawed, all those things. But I don't know. I figured there was some kind of connection maybe between the burning of all that pornography that I had and this massive cut on my arm that just appeared out of nowhere, and then of course followed by a couple of crazy dreams. This was a while ago. This was a long time ago. So, have I seen pornography since then? Yes, I have. But not much and not often. It's something I try to avoid. So there you go. Not much else to say, but I figured it's a worthwhile story, right? It's something. So everybody that's listening to this podcast right now, if you made it this far, hang on. I got some more episodes coming. I promise you I'm going to make up for lost time. How's that? I will make up for lost time, and I will do it in short order. Okay? So thanks for staying loyal. Thanks for listening. Thank you for being patient and hanging on. And until next time, remember, folks, if you want to keep what you've got to give it away. Take it easy.